We're all the way live right here at WHPR. It's a Monday. It's really nice outside, and we're told it's going to get better. Thank you so much for tuning into Feedback, a positive image production by Hood Research. My name is Theo Broughton, co-founder of Hood Research, and my co-host.
The BD, and we welcome you to the program.
It's been such a enjoyable weekend and holiday and Thanksgiving and all of this, and I trust that all of you enjoyed it as well. I spent a lot of time on the phone. Got a lot of calls from people to BD with holiday wishes and all of that, and I just really enjoyed it thoroughly. There were people coming and going in town, out of town, and all of that. And I guess you might say it's the beginning of the holidays for the end of the year. I'd like to say good morning to Errol and continue to get well, and ask you all to pray for Barbara Holbrook, who is at the hospital. Also, I want to say good morning to Gladys and Diane and Claire and Clementine. And I can't forget Sam. And I had a chance to go to the fundraiser that Riverbend gave, and it was very, very enjoyable. I was glad to have been able to enjoy that and meet a lot of people. And I want to say good morning to Tom. Also, what did you do over the holidays?
Uh, it's interesting you say holidays because it is a holiday, I guess, in the traditional sense of this country. But, having that political mindset about the history of it, I was able to interact with family. We looked
Yes,
at it in a different way, though. We
that's
didn't look
it.
at it in terms of pilgrims or anything. And that
No,
we have to emphasize that.
family
Yeah,
reunions.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's that national family
That's
reunion.
right.
So we had a pretty good time. Ate, got overstuffed, that kind of thing. And while we're at, I want to say shout out to Ruth Ann, Sister Frida Washington, Brother Smith Bay, Sister Sheila Ragland, Cheryl D, Gwen, and again, have your family, friends, neighbors, co-workers tune in and have pen and paper handy for valuable information you may want to record.
Always. And I want to thank those of you who helped to sponsor this program. And for those of you who are considering it, please make your check or your money order out to Hood Research. Or if you prefer, you can make it out to WHPR Broadcasting. We don't have any objection to that. But we'd like for you to mail it to Hood Research at P.O. Box 4416, Detroit, Michigan 48204. Again, if you would mail it to Hood Research, P.O. Box 4416, Detroit, Michigan 48204. And for those of you, and some people watch us by way of internet, just log on to hoodresearch.org. Or if you want to email us at contact@hoodresearch.org. Again, that's contact@hoodresearch.org. The telephone number is area code 248-234-2371. Area code 248-234-2371. I was tuned in to Roland Martin, I guess it is, this morning, and they had a few interesting reports that they gave this morning. And one, they talked about Baltimore. There was a police, I guess, detective who was going to testify against some rogue cops. And that was to be, I guess, this morning. And the detective was murdered last night. They're wondering what happened to his partner. The only thing they could find out was he was across the street hiding, and he was killed with his own revolver. and there was a report about a struggle. And so Roy Martin said, well, wait a minute. If the partner was across the street hiding, how did they get a report that there was a struggle, a brief struggle, and he was shot? So one of the other reports that they gave was to encourage, because of the election. Today is the last day to get registered to vote in Alabama, and the vote is coming up soon. And he was asking for anybody who was tuned in who has friends or family in Alabama to call and encourage them to get out to vote. And he was hoping that it wouldn't be a low turnout like we have experienced here. And the opponent, the Democratic opponent, is an attorney who tried the bombers of the, what was it, 16th Street Baptist Church where the 4 little girls were murdered. And he's one of the candidates running for governor of the state of Alabama. And then they also talked about Congressman John Conyers. And they were pointing out some interesting things that this information on John Conyers leaked out. Congress has a fund, money, dollars, greenbacks, that pay people off. I thought that was kind of interesting. And over 200 people have been paid out of that fund. And he was saying it's interesting that it seems to be, or was, a secret fund, but the only name that has fallen out is John Conyers. So Conyers has said that he will step aside from the committee on which he serves while the procedure takes place so that he can defend his name. But other than that, I thought it was an interesting news program, Roland and Martin. We have a guest with us this morning, and we're going to talk about the stock market. And his name is Michael Daniels, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
Would you tell us who is Michael Daniels?
Well, Michael Daniels is a lifelong Detroiter. I was fortunate enough to graduate from the Detroit Public School System, attended Wayne State and University of Detroit, majored in finance. And because I majored in finance, I had an opportunity to work on what we call Wall Street for almost 40 years, 6 months shy of 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked as a stockbroker or financial advisor for several of the major firms. I started off with a company called IDS, moved over to Merrill Lynch in 1980, and in 1983, I joined a firm at that time was called E.F. Hutton. Mm-hmm. Some of us might remember the commercial where you put your hand to your ear. We make money the old-fashioned way. We earn it.
When E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens.
Everybody
something
listens,
like that.
exactly. And I proceeded to stay there for another 26 years, even though we went through a bunch of name changes and mergers and whatnot. But it ended up Morgan Stanley, and I moved to a company called Ameriprise in 2008, and that's where I retired from last November. So I've had a variety of experiences dealing in one of the greatest financial accumulation period of the 90s, and are now leading into the highest stock market. As our president likes to remind everyone that he seems to think he made that happen.
Oh, Lord,
and he wants to remind us that the stock market is at its highest point ever. But I'd like to remind people that 9 years ago, when a president came to office and his name was Barack Obama, and he took over the stock market, was at one of its lowest points in the history of the United States, when it was 6,000, under 6,000. That stock market today is over 23,000 in 9 years of growth.
Now, what we want to do, since we're going into the end of the year, is arm people with information, and we want to start with the basics. What is the stock market?
The stock market is a collection of all the economic activity or companies that are publicly traded that do business on two buildings, New York and American stock exchanges. These are physical buildings in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another market called the over the counter or international market of just computers. So the stock market is made up of two buildings in New York, the New York and American Stock Exchange,
It's in Manhattan.
that's in Manhattan, and a
Mm-hmm.
whole network of computers
Mm-hmm.
that do all the running. So when you buy a stock or ownership in a company, and that's what stocks represent, ownership in companies,
Mm-hmm.
then you are participating in Wall Street. Now, you may not do it directly, but many of us have 401ks and
Mm-hmm.
IRAs and 403bs, and most
Mm-hmm.
of those assets are then invested in the stock market. So whether you know it directly or indirectly,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are participating in the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incumbent upon all of us as Americans to have an interest or at least a working knowledge of what's going on in the market. Because as I like to remind people, everything affects the market. Because it's about the money.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Because they always say, if you want to find the problem, follow the money.
We hear that often.
Often. And it's usually
Yes.
truthful.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Now, I think a 401k is like playing Russian roulette. But when you said a little while ago, it was at 6,000 and now it's 23,000.
Exactly.
What does that mean
That
exactly?
means that the value of an investment that had been invested approximately 10 years ago, 8, 9 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
has more than 3 times, almost 4 times increased in value
Mm-hmm.
for a stock, for ownership in the stock market. Now, that's a mistake too that a lot of people make in that they assume that your 401k is like investing in the gambling. And it's not. For
Mm-hmm.
many Americans, when you don't take advantage of your 401k, which is a retirement plan that's supplied by your company at your workplace, many of them have what we call a matching feature. So if you put in so much money, they put in so much money. So when you refuse to participate in your retirement plan, you're literally giving away money. That's the example. Companies think of your retirement package as part of your total compensation package. So if you're making $30,000, say, and they're going to match you on your retirement, if you put in 3,000, they put in 3,000. If you don't put in 3,000, they won't put in 3,000. So literally, you're giving away money and you're undermining your complete compensation package by not participating in the retirement plan.
Now, are all companies matching these days?
Not all companies, but
Okay.
quite a few companies, large, especially major companies, do
Mm-hmm.
because they get a tax incentive, they get a better employee, a happier employee, and the government is encouraging people to invest because they know when
That's
many of
great.
us need that retirement 30, 40, 20 years from now, Social Security may not be an adequate source of your retirement.
If it exists at all,
If
I'm
it
dealing with
exists at
Donald
all, right.
Trump.
I didn't want to go into the political
No,
ramifications,
that's
but
right.
we do know the Republicans do want to get away with it, do away with it.
Mm,
Now
mm.
I'm curious, since the idea or thought was that you're gambling with your money, can you lose since things fluctuate up and down in terms of whatever the value it is, and then you have people, let's say for instance you have an annuity. Well, maybe annuity is something quite different then, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now with 401k, is your money still stable regardless? So if the market fluctuates one way or the other, does your 401 increase or decrease as a result of that?
Well, first of all, what we have to realize is all retirement accounts are individual accounts. So every person has their own individual account. And under that banner, you have the option to invest in a variety of vehicles that you would choose to invest in. One of the things that you can invest in, you mentioned it, a term like an annuity, which is a contract between you and an insurance company, which absolutely guarantees you a certain rate and value and accumulation. So if you put all your money in an annuity, you are guaranteed not to lose that money. Whereas if you want to spread your money into other investments, you have the option to put some of that money in that. And that may not be guaranteed, and it would go up and down. So really one of the advantages of investing or managing a retirement account is you want to spread it around. So you have some of your money in all types of things. So some of it is guaranteed, and some of it does go up and down. The trade-offs on that, when you choose guaranteed investments, they're going to be very safe, but they're going to be very low yielding.
Right.
So your trade-off for getting safety, you get low yields. And for taking risk, you get higher returns, but they do go up and down. So one day your $1,000 may be worth $1,000. Next day it might be worth $1,500, or it might go down to $500.
Right.
But traditionally, over the long term, and the long term being if your time horizon is longer than 5 years looking forward, then you're better off being in an investment that tends to go up and down because you will make more money. And remember, this retirement account that you're looking at, you're not looking at it for now. Depending on your age, you're looking at it for when you're going to be 65. Right. So if you're 20 or 25, heck, you don't care if it goes up and down. Right. As a matter of fact, it's really better for you if it goes down because you're putting money in and you don't care how low it goes. You're buying more. Whereas if you're 65, you don't want the market to go down because you don't have time for it to recuperate. So it depends on your strategy and where you are in the cycle and what you're trying to accomplish would determine which approaches is the best way for you to go.
Well, it seems that the annuity, which was safe and building and very strong for the city employees, was stolen by the governor and the emergency manager. Did you have any time to research any of that?
Of course. And what that took was unprecedented, and it took the courts once again to enter. Whenever you're entering a contract, it's the courts are going to be the delineating factor on whether that contract can be changed or altered or broken. In this particular instance, the city of Detroit petitioned the bankruptcy court saying we can't meet our obligations if we continue on those paths. So because of that, the bankruptcy court changed the rules, and that's how people got mishandled.
The problem is the city of Detroit was not in bankruptcy danger. It was a plot to take over the city of Detroit. One of the things that's not really talked about much is the target was only on the people after 2003, not all of the retirees. And interestingly enough, those retirees, for the most part, were those who came into city government under Mayor Coleman, Alexander Young.
Correct. I mean, I can't litigate or answer or address the issue of why they did that.
We know why they did it.
Right, but that's
the
the
thing is
net
how
outcome.
they stole their pension money, their annuities. And the most recent thing now is there is talk about restoring the pension and taking the medical benefit. But anyway, you had another question.
Well, I got a lot of questions.
Go ahead.
And we got a lot of answers.
Okay. Well, one of the things now that you mentioned annuities, well, I brought that up, and then you had mentioned how the stock market fluctuates.
Right.
How would who should an individual seek in terms of maybe getting the best bang for their buck? Like you say, if you're young, you can afford to not look that far ahead because you got so much time in front of you.
Exactly.
And those who are older have to be a little bit more savvy in the way they do it. But now who, like when you mentioned IDS, I think that was Investors Diversified Service.
That's
Yeah, I
company
remember that from
started
way
with.
back in the
Exactly.
day. So now what I'm curious about is how would an individual, like say one of us or one of our viewers, who would they seek in terms of first having confidence that this person will manage their money in the best way? And I hear that some companies are set up where whether you make a profit or not, they get whatever it is they're supposed to get from you as one of their clients, where some agencies, let's say, or financial institutions, don't benefit unless you benefit as well. Because some, I guess, and I don't know what their names are. I hear them talk about hedge fund and people on that level, but I don't know who exactly do we seek in terms of trying to say, okay, I want to invest. Who would I go to?
You know, one thing about Wall Street, it is one of the most confusing things is its words and the terms that they throw around. You know, because we use things in multiple ways, like when they say ownership of stock. When you own stock, you're part owner of a corporation. But you can own that through a mutual fund, through a retirement account, through an ETF, exchange traded fund. So you can buy the same thing in many ways. So the same term can be used over and over. But people dealing in the financial markets should have a financial advisor because it's an ongoing market. It's constantly changing. Every day at 9:30 Monday through Friday, the bell sounds. They start trading at 4 o'clock. The bell sounds, and they stop trading Monday through Friday. That goes on regardless of whether you're there or not. And because of that, you need someone there to help you make those decisions. That's one of the problems that I'm concerned about in our community because there are not a lot of financial advisors of African American or of any color dealing in the markets. We're a very, very small part of it because it's a very difficult profession to get in. Not a lot of people know about it, and it's kind of hard to sustain yourself over a long period of time. I must say I'm very fortunate. Had I not been born and raised in the city of Detroit, I don't know if I would have ever had a career of 40 years in the financial services industry because Detroit is such a unique place. It supports its own. There are so many other what I would call black brokers that I know out here. If we weren't in Detroit, we would never because we don't have a base to go to. One of the requirements, not the requirements, but what they look for in the brokerage industry when you come for it, the interview for it, if you come from a family of wealth, you got a ticket in because you got the connections, you know the people, you know the language, right. You know what it's about. You've sat around your dinner table all your life and talked about the financial markets, whether directly or indirectly, and what impacts them. But if you come from a working class background like most of us come from, right. This is a totally foreign experience to you. But at the same time, it's one of the most important things in America. Because one of my theories is that we as African Americans, we're playing by the wrong set of rules on what America is about. America is about taking risk and ownership. That's why immigrants from all over the world come to America by hook, crook, ships, planes, trips, however they can get into this country, because we're the only place on the face of the earth that you can come here, don't know the language, can't speak it, know nothing about it, and can leave here a multimillionaire because you can start a business. And that's what America is about. You can't do that in Europe. You can't do it in Africa. You can't do it in the Middle East. You can't do it in South America. Only in America can you come here, open your XYZ restaurant, and you in business. Right. You know, you can make money, and you can make a lot of money, and no other place can do that.
Why can't they open businesses in those other countries you mentioned?
They don't have it. They're not rules. That's what makes America great, the open border. That's what this Trump thing about stopping immigration is one of the most efficient things about it, because what has made America great was immigrants. People have come here, brought their ideas and whatnot, and profited from it, and we as a culture have benefited. I say one of the biggest contributors to the American culture has been African Americans. Oh. And we have not benefited from it because we were slaves. We were not able to accumulate the wealth that came from the sweat of our equity like every other ethnic group.
Right.
You know, and that's why we're behind the 8 ball, because we're not playing the game of ownership, buying things and owning them. And I'm not talking about buying things that depreciate. We have to buy assets that appreciate, like real estate, like stocks, like own businesses, things that go up in value. Not fur coats, Not $70,000, $80,000 cars, not $100,000 rings and diamonds and jewelry. Those things don't go up in value. When you need money, you can't go back and tell your fur coat, I need to sell this to raise some capital. Because that 10,000 you put in, they may give you a couple grand. Those are the type of assets we buy. That's why I say we're playing the game by the wrong set of rules. Everybody else coming over here, they're buying appreciating assets.
Okay, wait. I want to go back to my question though. Why can't these immigrants do that in their countries? You
Because no other country but America allows you to accumulate and make money. That's why people died to get in here. That's why we're not taking advantage of the game that we're here in. We need to be buying businesses, owning property. That's what we need to be doing to build our own economic base like every other ethnic group. I give you a great example, the Chaldean Arab community. We started coming up north here with the great migration north from the south because of your Highland Park benefactor, Henry Ford, was paying people 100 years ago $5 a day to come up here. Changed our culture because all kind of groups came up here to work. But the Arab community in particular, not only did they come here to work, but they started buying businesses and doing commerce because they're descendants of Phoenicians who for 2,000 years have been merchants in the Middle East all over the world and started businesses. Right now, there are over 125,000 Chaldean Arab Americans who work in their small businesses that they own so they can support themselves. They can have that Arab access community and whatnot. When you own your businesses and make your money and control your economic wealth, you're in charge of your community and your future. We're not at that stage. We don't own businesses. We can't generate economic wealth because of that. That's why we have to go into a phase now what America's about, owning businesses. If you can't run a business, buy stock in a business. That's what stocks represent. You don't have to own the business, but you can invest in the business and reap the rewards of being in the business by owning stocks. That's why we need to own stocks.
Okay, I'm going to follow up on that. One of the things that I'm interested in, now, like you said, we need to buy things that appreciate in value, and I'm in total agreement with that. I'm not a materialist anyway, so those type of conspicuous consumption type items don't really appeal to me. But
not to cut you off, but we've been taught to be consumers.
Right.
That's what America, they need us. Every other ethnic group comes in here, and I hate to use the word, pimp our community. Sell us wares, from nails to hair to gas to everything.
Right.
And we don't own any of that process. That's all I'm saying. If you want to spend your money, let's be part of the process, because that's what America is about. Ownership. Taking risks. No guarantee whenever you buy a company or start a business that you're going to make money. But the history is showing over time businesses and companies make more money.
Now this is a very expansive thing that we're dealing with. But one of the things that I'm interested in is like, okay, we talk about blue chip stocks,
yes.
We talk about NASDAQ,
yes.
Standard & Poor's, and we talk about the Dow Jones Industrial. Now, a lot of times they'll say invest in blue chip stocks, which may be something like General Motors,
yes.
something that's always stable, McDonald's.
Not always stable now.
Okay.
Remember, General Motors went bankrupt too.
Right.
Now remember, they were once the largest corporation in the world, but they went bankrupt also. So there's no guarantee when you buy stocks that even if you buy a big company, they can avoid bankruptcy or they can't get in trouble.
So now when we look at blue chip stocks, pretty much they're supposed to be more stable, correct?
They tend to be.
And now the yield on that is probably low in terms of, that's what I'm wondering about, because a lot of times when they speak about the yield, you think about let's say whatever their profit margin is over whatever their investment is or whatever it is they need to maintain their business. So would it be in our best interest, even though, like you say, General Motors, one time the largest in the world, but it fluctuates. I know some people who've invested in McDonald's. Let's say maybe they invested in Disney or something like that, and we're always concerned about what is the price of our stock. You know, do you want to sell fast or something like that? So first, what would be the better, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, Standard & Poor's, or that's where you need that advisor at to who monitors the stock market and sees the fluctuations and tries to anticipate, because they're always trying to anticipate what their growth is going to be. That like, let's say right now they're talking about the car market. They say this November, I think, as it's getting ready to end, was an increase of over 3% over last year in terms of sale. But nobody can really predict that. So, what would be the best thing for an initial investor in stock to look at?
Okay. See, now what you did was exactly why a lot of people get, when you talk about the market, their eyes glass over. Because there's so many things you said in terminology. For example, just the term yield. What does yield mean? When you say your yield, that means how much money are you actually getting back from this investment? If you go to a savings account and they give you 1%, that means if you put $1,000 in there at the end of the whole year, you'll get $1.
Right.
That's what that means. But when you buy yields in the stock, you get money in a variety of ways. You get money in the yield from the dividends. Dividends are the piece of the profits that corporations give you because they're making so much money. So you can take that in cash or reinvest it. Or the yield you get is the profits that you make when you buy a stock at $10 and sell it at $20. Right. So there's a lot of different yields in how you turn it. But for most investors, you need to go back. You need to go back to the beginning. Before you get that far on where to invest money, the key to accumulating financial wealth in this country is a very simple process. It's called a budget. You got to, before you can start investing in anything, you need to know how much money you got coming in, how much money you got coming out. And I don't mean a budget that's in your head. I mean a budget that's down on paper. Right. Because when you put it down on paper, it doesn't lie. When you got $1,000 a month coming in and you total up all your bills and they worth $1,400 a month, right, then you got a problem. But until you put it on the paper, a lot of times in your head you don't see it because you can rob Peter to pay Paul. Right. So the very essence of financial planning starts with a budget. And once you determine the budget, then there's certain rules you have to follow. Like one of the first rules of financial planning is you need 6 months of expenses before you start investing anything. So if it costs you $2,000 a month to run your household, before you start investing anything else, you need to accumulate $10,000 to $12,000 in just cash. That you're going to sit there so that if you lost your job or something happened, you got a 6 months grace period that you can take care of yourself. Now let me say how hard that is. 70% of Americans don't have $500 in their bank account to start this if they had an emergency right now. Right. That's why credit cards make so much money off of it, because we don't have that cash reserve to take care of the simple things. A flat tire, you need a set of tires. The doorbell went out. You got to have, just the emergencies of life. So before we get into the investing, we need to start the basics of how much money we need to live by.
Mm-hmm. If anybody has any questions, call in. Oh, you do? Okay. 868-0341. 868, what is it? 868-0351. 868-4336. Yeah, and go ahead.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
I'm over the internet. Over the internet.
Okay,
yeah. When I heard your guest speak of the immigrants coming here and owning because they was historical merchants, that's not true. The Small Business Administration. When you look at the U.S. Census Bureau, the Small Business Administration financed them immigrants in our community. And they gave billions of dollars and didn't give blacks nothing but a few million for I look at it every 10 years. Also, when I was raised up in Louisville, Kentucky, Jews, my daddy rent from, they had those stamps on their arm where they was in concentration camps. And I couldn't understand why they had it. My daddy was here, didn't have it, had to rent from them. I come to find out about 10 years ago that the Commerce Department financed them in our community. So they're not was just savage economically while they went over the blacks. They was put in that position by the federal government, as same as the whites coming in here now. They get welfare. They call it tax subsidies, but they get the services and don't pay for them. That's why they down there happy, and we out here in misery. So I like your thing about stop, but your history is totally off base.
Okay, thanks for the call.
Tyrone. Did you hear?
Yeah, I heard him.
Okay.
And there's a myth
fine.
out there that immigrants get subsidies when they come over here. I can't say if they do or do not, but I know immigrants come over here and start businesses. And that's the key to building wealth. And when you start a business, there's no guarantee. There's nobody every day you open that door, there's no guarantee somebody going to walk in there and spend their time with you. You have to put your time and energy into making that business a success. And they tend to do that better than other groups, the people who've been here for a long time. And that includes us. Because they're hungry. They're coming here to succeed. They're coming from different environments where poverty is a lot worse than what we have here. And they view this as an opportunity. If we decide not to play the game, that's our fault. And the game is about ownership and taking risk. That's what America is about. Not about guarantees and jobs. When slaves got jobs, but you couldn't accumulate no wealth.
Plenty of jobs.
You got plenty of jobs.
One of the things it seems to me is that people from other countries who come here are not poor.
Many of them are.
can't
You're absolutely
imagine
right.
A poor person being able to buy a ticket
To get
to
here.
come on a ship, to buy a ticket to fly over here on a plane.
You're absolutely. Many of them are doctors and whatnot in their communities. Come here and take lower paying jobs in order just to
build
get here.
themselves up.
And then once they get here, they go to school, do everything, and they get back to their profession.
They also sponsor.
That's another
from
thing.
their
We don't talk
countries.
about how they
Exactly.
help one another.
Yeah,
Well, that's in our community. That's not as as
Whether
we know.
they get subsidies from the federal government or not,
Right.
they do sponsor
Exactly.
their relatives.
So there's
friends, or
things
whomever
that
they
we
bring
can
over
do
here.
to help build this network of financial wealth that we have to build, because we're moving into a world that now you're not going to be taken care of by your company, by the government. The only person you can count on is yourself and the Lord.
Right. Now,
That's
you
it.
talk about investing in companies and reaping dividends, yield,
Yes.
etc. Now, I guess my concern is, what companies? Are there black companies that we can invest in? Otherwise, if we are investing in white companies, we're still spending 95% of our money outside of our own community. Is there a listing anywhere of black companies that you can invest in?
Whenever you buy stock in a company, that's what we call a publicly traded company. That means they have to meet certain requirements, they have to be a certain size, they got to get all this information and put it out there so that people can invest in it. There are black companies that meet that requirements, but they're very small in nature.
Okay.
When you invest money, what you're looking for, and the bottom line tends to be, does this company make money? That's what people are in it for. If the company makes money, the people tend to invest in it, regardless of the ownership. Right now, a lot of companies that we wouldn't invest in have been bought by foreigners now, are owned by the Japanese and the Chinese and the Mexican, wealthy oligarchs that have a lot of money and view the U.S. as great investment opportunities.
Right.
And that's why they put their money here. So even though you may be here working for a company, your owner may not be an American or African American or white, because right now the way capital is, when I say capital is dollars, wealth, it knows no boundaries on the face of this earth.
Yeah,
It respects no governments.
A lot of foreigners are purchasing property here
Everywhere
in
in
the city of
Detroit, exactly.
Detroit.
So they just flying an airplane over, taking pictures, seeing blocks of land, say we want to buy that. Because they know the economic cycle over time, when you buy stuff low, it goes up in value. All you have to do is be patient. There is no city in America, in the world, that's better situated for economic growth than Detroit. because things got so cheap. That's why they don't
Right,
care. They
right.
just buy a block of land. They know out of that 100 houses, so if 90 of them go bad, 10 of them make me all my money back because I only put in X number of dollars.
Right. Get another caller. Hello, caller. You on the air? Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
I Channel 33.
Hi, Acha. Thanks for calling.
What's that?
Oh, you
And
bet.
hood research. All right, it's all like popcorn. We prefer hood research over the Jim Jones or station. Look, your guest mentioned have brought oil money or something over to this country and injected it those spots. I got the newspaper in front of me, and it's got Country Bank, City Bank, Pioneer Bank, and other banks were the ones contributing to the wealth of the Chaldean community. So they was mortgaging illegally. They were mortgaging like $150,000 property. They were getting a $500,000. Oh, and the property had maybe $20,000 equity in it. In the city of Detroit, it was $500,000 from the bank. Banks like Country Bank, City Bank, Pioneer Bank, and it was illegal. It was all illegal. You can't give $500,000 on a $100,000 piece of property. That's how they got started. And the Small Business Association, the SBA here in Detroit and all over the country, they don't secure loans for black people. They did it for the Arab Chaldeans. I got the newspaper clippings in my library. I'm looking at it right now. So I mean, look, every time we open up an empowerment zone, whether it's the Carolinas, Redwood, Tulsa, or Black Bottom, or Cornbread Bottom, or Paradise Valley, or North End, or Davidson, they burn us out. They shut it down. They don't want ownership in the black community. Black ownership, the threat to white supremacy. That's why they bomb. That's why they tore up North End. That's why they destroyed Davidson. So every time we try best in ownership, they blow it. They blow us the kingdom come. White folks destroy it. And I invested myself. My family been in business ever since I was born. My stock is meat. You know, and I employ employees. I make sure the financial stability, economic empower. And with the vendors that I go through, my doctors are black, my lawyers are black, my accountant is black, my employees are black. That's my stock and in Detroit.
Yeah. That's a sound way of doing business. Thank you so much for that.
We all need to be doing that type of business. That's the only way we're going to build our community is that we invest and do business with the community, with the entrepreneurs and the people who are putting hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in our city. If we take our dollars and go across 8 Mile, we're dissing those people who are making that capital commitment. It takes a real commitment to run a business, not only money-wise, but time, effort, energy. You get your family, you invest it all the way in. These companies do not let you come in and give you money unless you all in. That's it. They don't halfway it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious. This is, and then we have another caller, but I'll just kind of make this brief. Now, when they talk about commodities, so we look at how wheat, speculations on the market, that kind of thing. Is there any safe commodity, or I mean, because it does fluctuate. Like I guess we may get our wheat from so and so, and we get corn or whatever from another country or something. So how does commodities work? I just want to kind of an overview.
Worse. Because they're even more volatile because you're using what you call leverage. You're only putting up a small amount of money to control a large amount of a commodity. So the swings are even more devastating to you. Everything in America, in the world where there is ownership, there is risk. There are no guarantees whenever you put your money in anything that you're going to get a ample rate of return or you're going to get your money back. That's the rules of the game. Now, if you don't want to play it, then you got to play in the area like safety, like government bonds, like annuities. Those are the only things that you can use that word guaranteed. Because nothing is guaranteed. Only thing that's guaranteed is death and taxes.
Oh, Lord. What about the mutual funds?
They ain't guaranteed. They ain't guaranteed. All you doing is pooling that risk, turning it over to somebody else and letting them manage it. There is no guarantees. We have to quit thinking about guarantees. Think about what America is about. Risk and ownership. You get rewarded by taking risk, and you get that reward by being an owner. It's simple as that. Being workers don't get rewarded.
Now, you had mentioned something earlier about diamonds. They sell jewelry on the...
That's a commodity.
Right.
That's a commodity. Everything comes down to the markets. Everything you can think of is on the markets. I don't care whatever it is. Sand. When all these hurricanes were coming, the price of sand doubled. Double between construction and these people buying it to make the barriers. Everything is affected by the market.
So if you heard there were, what was it? It was 4 hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
And then one more after that.
Yeah.
When they were in the season, so you would say to buy stock in sand would be a good idea.
That might be a good idea, right? Or lumber, because they're going to have to board up all these buildings when they get through. Or construction that they're going to come through, wipe our whole community. See, the whole thing about the markets, you touched on it. Every day somebody is speculating on a new angle to make some money. They don't care what it is. They don't care what happened in the world, who got killed, who got hurt. This is going to affect the market one way or the other. And you can make money on the upside in the market, and you can also make money on the downside in the market. The markets do not care. All they want is movement, and people will make money off of it.
Okay. Now, you're familiar with Alibaba, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us what you've learned about that.
It's like Amazon. It's the Chinese Amazon. They're buying everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon bought Whole Foods.
They're like...
10 years ago, when I bought my first book on Amazon, I thought that would be, I buy electronic equipment and books. What is it you can't buy on Amazon now?
Right.
Ain't nothing. You can buy a house on Amazon.
eBay is trying to compete, but Alibaba... what's that first computer game? Pac-Man.
I think it's but gobble it up. That's it. That's what America is about. Either you get big or you get out. Because somebody going to gobble you up. There's no such thing as safety anymore. You can be the vice president of a company. Somebody buy the company, they don't need 2 vice presidents. You're gone. The higher the income, the more likely you are, you're gone. There is no such thing as safety in America. Your job can be good. You can be at a multi-million-dollar corporation. You go to work, come home Friday, get your check, come back Monday. Your company sold. You ain't used with us no more. You're done. That's the kind of world you have to prepare yourself in right now. And the only way you prepare yourself is to have money, have skills to you can make you some money, and have faith in the Lord to protect you during these hard times. Because ain't nobody else out here going to do it for you but you.
Is there anybody out there can gobble up Donald Trump?
Donald Trump going to get his. His business is failing. He's a poor businessman.
You promise?
He's highly leveraged, and that's why when this guy get through going, it's all invested in Russia, because the Russians are the only people who would give him money. He went bankrupt 4 times.
Yeah,
no bank would touch him.
We heard about that.
That's right. Do you know what happens when you do a bankruptcy? You literally screw people. And that's what he's done 4 times. Nobody touch him. Those oligarchs will buy from him. They'll buy a house and pay him $95 million because they're just stealing money from Russians anyway.
Okay, we want to get this one caller and has been on for a little bit. And you have about a minute or so because we are getting down on time. So you're on the air. You can ask our guest a question.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning,
Queen. Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
And your guest. Queen, I like to put this out there. Minister Farrakhan did a lecture, what the most powerful lecture that has been done in the last 462 2 years, and that was on November the 16th in Washington, D.C. at the Watergate Hotel. And all of us need to go and hear what Minister Farrakhan addressed Donald Trump on, because we are in a period now. It's a life and death situation for us in America. And when you talk about America, America is nothing but a corporation. When you do the research, you'll find that America is still tied to Great Britain. Three of the most powerful cities on the planet is number one, the House of Rothschilds in London, the Vatican City, and Washington, D.C. And we're caught up, understand, and not doing the research, because we're not going to get out of this as individuals, Queen and my brother. If we don't come together and do what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us to do, we're going to lose our life, because America's on her way out. When you find out that America is only supported by the petrodollar, and you'll find China and Russia and this thing that's going on, World War III, that's going on, that we're not paying no attention to.
Well, we're paying
this thing is about to crash. What you see going on in the Middle East, they're at war. And we are sitting around as a people, and God is backing us, but we're sitting back trying to continue to hold on to America, who's on our way out.
Period.
You gotta go study what Minister Farrakhan said to Donald Trump.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Good morning. We're at the end of the show. I wish you had called earlier, but our guest, Michael Daniels, has made the point that we must support our own. We must. We don't have any choice about that. Recycle our money within our own community, invest in our businesses. As our child was sharing with us a little earlier, this is something that we must. We don't have a choice about this.
I agree.
And I want to say thank you to our guest, Michael Daniels, for being here this morning to discuss stocks. And hopefully he has given some insight to all of us on it. And I want to also let you know that it's not necessary for you to know everything. We at Hood Research gather as much information as we can to share with you, to help us all make better informed decisions. Because as I say, you need to know how to find what you need when you need it. And we want you to join Hood Research. Again, the website is hoodresearch.org. The email is contact@hoodresearch.org. And the telephone number is area code 248-234-2371. That's 248-234-2371, Speedy.
If you want to be nothing, do nothing. But the only problem with doing nothing is you never know when you're finished.
All right.
I like that.
Thank you, Michael Daniels.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share this information. Anytime y'all need me, I'll come.
All right. Tune in again next week. And
now stay tuned for Get in the Know with Marley B. See you next week.